Welcome everyone to another live session here on the Guardian Alliance Academy. Today we're going to be exploring making love to the world through honoring the deepest gifts in ourselves. I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey today as your host, Adam Apollo. Today I am rolling solo here in the Guardian Alliance, and we'll be exploring elemental magic and ways to compose different fields of frequencies and energies in your body to make direct changes inside of your sensorial vehicle, i.e. your body, and also to make changes in the world around you. Now, why do we want to make changes in the world around us? Well, for one thing, as we look out into the world right now and we really take account for what's been happening here on the planet Earth, we see that there have been a lot of choices that we've made as human beings that have affected our biosphere, that have damaged our environment, that have deeply impacted the potential living, flowing life force of this planet throughout the centuries and the years to come. And so now we are at a turning point. We have a chance and an opportunity to make a course correction, to bring things back into coherence, into harmony, into peace, and into order. And to do that, we have to really assess ourselves and our dynamics and our energy and what it is that we're bringing to the table each day in the gifts that we give to the world. It's also important for us to look into the stories that we've been told in history and the ideas that have been implanted in our popular culture that may be affecting our relationship with this planet. Today is Earth Day. And in order to honor Earth Day fully, we must come to an understanding of how we can honor the elements of this planet, the energies of this planet, and how we can best give our love to each aspect of those. So to begin our session today, I'm going to begin in a little bit of an unusual fashion and do a little bit of a ceremony to bring us into this place in space-time that we're at and acknowledge this position that we are here in the middle of this medicine wheel that is our space-time continuum flowing spaceship traveling through space, planet Earth. So join me if you will in this, and please keep an open mind if this is not something that you've normally experienced or seen or participated in. And I think that you'll find that if you surrender to the feelings that are brought in as I do this ceremonial moment, you'll notice that there's a connection that is created between you and the planet and you and everything else. That's what ceremony is about. That's what ritual is really about. It's about understanding where we're at in space-time and coming into presence, coming into the fullness of this moment where we are right here together. I call on the energies of the East, of the birthing wave, of the rising sun, of the chalice, of that open space of discovery. And I open myself and ask that we all open ourselves to discovering anew today, to being children, opening our eyes to the world and the sunlight for the first time, and discovering, opening, awakening, birthing. Thank you. Welcome, energies of the East. Aho. I call on the energies of the South, of the full-grown staff, the stave, the great tree, the full summer sun. I call upon the wisdom and the understanding and the knowledge of everyone who has come to join this circle. I acknowledge your strength, your wisdom, your path. Whoever you are, I welcome you, and I welcome all that you are with you to be present and stand here together with me today. Oh, thank you. I call upon the energies of the West, of the setting sun, of the falling away, of the diamond, of the pentacle, of the value and the wealth. I acknowledge and I honor all that I need to let go of. I honor and acknowledge all that you can let go of. Through letting go, we give our energy and our abundance to others. our things that we no longer need become great gifts for other people and other life. What we let die becomes new life and growth. I welcome the energies of the West. Thank you for being here. Aho. Call upon the energies of the North, of the crossing of the veil, of the sword, the spade. I call upon our spirit selves, our higher perspectives, our soul family, and our ancestral lineage. I acknowledge that we are supported by millions of years of evolution and consciousness. I acknowledge that I am more than a physical body. I acknowledge that we are spirit together and that we can see beyond the veils of the physical world, that we must acknowledge all aspects of our being to understand fully and truly who we are. Welcome, energies of the North. Aho. Call upon the Father Sky above, the perspective of the winged ones, that vision, that rising, that lets us see ourselves and understand all that we are, that takes it all in, that allows it all to be, that honors everything that we are. Thank you, winged ones. Thank you, Father Sky. Thank you, star nations, Syrian, Pleiadian, Lahonian, Kuhanian, Laquinan, Wininan, Wene, six of many of a sacred council. Welcome here. Thank you for being with us here today. Aho. I honor the energies of the earth. Gaia. I give thanks for her water is my blood. I give thanks for her body is my body. All the food that I eat becomes my bones and my flesh and my blood. Her wind is my breath. It lets me breathe life. And her warmth and fire is the same warmth and fire that beats in my heart. I honor my Mother Earth. I give thanks for this life and this gift of this body. Thank you, Mother Earth. And I honor myself and I honor you in the center of this sacred circle. I honor each of us for being here now and becoming present here together. Thank you for your presence. Welcome. All right, now that we got that started, let's talk a little bit about honoring the earth and honoring the elements. Some of that ceremony, as you would see, I spoke of different elements in different directions and different energies coming in. Many different earth traditions throughout history have honored the earth by acknowledging and recognizing that there are these different directions in which things happen in our experience. The sun rises on one side of the sky and it sets on the other side of the sky. And that happens every day, never goes away. If you go in this direction, the sun changes its position in the sky. If you go in that direction, it changes its position the other way. This happens all over the earth. And while the subtle differences in, latitude and longitude and northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere are, somewhat significant, what's even more significant is that the same basic energies and arrangement of awareness of our position on the planet is something that's been shared by cultures all over the world. And we see records of this, being expressed often through sacred symbolism. One of the familiar symbols that many of us see related to this is the medicine wheel, which is generally a North American indigenous population symbol, where you see a circle and the circle has a cross in it. And each of the points in that circle represents one of the four directions and often represents an element and a color energy. And it represents one of these four fields of engagement with the planet. In some cultures, they also represent the four corn people, which it's questionable where this actually originated from, but it's clear that in ancient Maya terminology, they discussed the corn people that came from different areas of the river in the sky. And the Maya's origin story was that these different corn people came down at this specific time to basically honor and help transform the planet and bring it into a higher state. And they had their own language for that. But the general idea is these people from this river in the sky who come here and are now the different peoples of the planet Earth. Now, we see many other kinds of peoples, of course, on the Earth. But the basic idea of these four elements coming together to create this physical living experience that we're having is something that's profound and absolutely present in every culture everywhere. Other symbolism that we see in other cultures, usually more the Druid cultures and some of the Indo-European cultures, and we also see it in a lot of the Polynesian cultures and cultures in Southeast Asia, is the symbol of the five-pointed star. Now, the five-pointed star also, again, in a lot of these earth-based religion cultures, represents the four directions and the four elements. But in this case, there's also the fifth element, and the fifth element is presenced in the circle. Whereas in the medicine wheel, you know, you see the four lines and they converge in the center, and that is the fifth element. That is the perception, that is the self, that's the you, that's the village, that's the tribe in the center of the wheel of the world and the wheel of energy. Now, in the Druid tradition and the magical traditions, which is, you know, goes all the way back, Egyptian magic and beyond, they're taking the center point in that medicine wheel and they're bringing it out into the circle. And they're doing that so that they can acknowledge the spirit and the consciousness of the life out here, as well as the fact that they're perceiving it, but it stands on its own. And what's really interesting about that is that that makes the symbol totally in itself show the balance of there's you and there's also your connection with all the different points in life. You know, if I stand up and I put my arms out and my legs out and my head, I form this same symbol, this five-pointed star. And this five-pointed star symbol actually contains inside of it certain mathematical information that we find throughout nature. The fractal patterns of the ways that leaves bloom, the way a nautilus shell unfolds, and many, many, many other shells, the ratio of the electromagnetic fields around the planet, the ratio of our width of our DNA to one turn of our DNA. All of these things use the mathematical ratio known as the Phi ratio. Now, Phi is also used in other ratios in physics, but this is the popular Phi ratio. And it's generally known as the golden mean or the golden section. I have a nice little wooden book here, so you can just see a pretty little picture of the beautiful golden mean spiral. These are amazing books. I highly recommend checking them out if you have a chance. And I discovered a long time ago something very, very interesting and strange about our current human society and the way that we look at this symbol, this sacred symbol, which obviously has massive, massive connection to how all life functions and blooms here on planet Earth. And I noticed that there was a belief, a very, very persistent belief through the internet, through books I found, through teachings, studies, stuff that you find all over, that this symbol somehow represented the devil, or like evil, or devil worship, right? And in particular, they would turn this, you know, five-pointed star upside down, and suggested that if it's upside down, it basically refers, it's basically evil. It refers to the devil and to Lucifer. Now, you know, after a little bit of further investigation into this, I realized that the original symbol for this upside down pentacle, which has the 2 points going up, and I'll make another picture here. It would be like that, upside down. The two horns that are pointing up here, they're depicted in these symbols where this is devil worshiping as the horns of the devil, you know, and he's this dark dude and he's got these blood and it's all dark and usually bloody and red and whatever else. Now, that symbol of the being with the horns going into that is actually an ancient Wiccan symbol, which represents Pan. And the Pan is the goat being who basically comes in as a nature spirit. He's a wild spirit of fairy lore who comes into places that are not fertile. In other words, when the land is dying, when women are having fertility issues, there's not enough children, in a village because, there's not enough fertility happening in villages. And oftentimes, usually it's oriented mostly around the land, and the land dying, not having enough rain, not having enough fertility. Well, Pan was this spirit creature that they would call upon, and Pan would come in and he would dance and play his flute, and they would sing and play songs to Pan and invite all of this beautiful, beautiful sexual energy to enrich the land and to give to the land. And a lot of Beltane Ritual, which is coming up here at the end of April, the beginning of May, a lot of Beltane Ritual was designed around this same celebration of the fertility of life, where random people are jumping over fires naked and having sex in the woods and spilling their seed upon the ground in a way to make love to the earth, to honor the earth, to give the earth our sensual, sexual, potent energy, to give thanks for the fact that the earth is giving us life in return that allows us to have that energy, that procreation, and that experience of fertility. Now, okay, so how did this all go wrong, and where did the story come from, and why did it turn into devil worshiping? Well, that story goes back to, early European times when, in particular, the Roman Empire was traveling through Europe and basically trying to, one, destroy the natural calendar that was being used for ceremonies and rituals, and in place instead the Gregorian calendar, or what became the Gregorian calendar, which is what most of us still use today. It's not a natural time calendar at all. It's got 2 months in it named after emperors in Rome. I mean, we celebrate Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar every year for 2 months. But most of us just don't even ever really think about that or realize, like, oh, wow, why are we still like celebrating the Caesars? Like, what did they really do for us? Besides, for one thing, destroy massive amounts of indigenous culture throughout the European whole area, not to mention other areas of the world as well. But in particularly the British Isles area and areas like that, where the Pan legends were really strong, these elven sort of origins and fairy peoples, they specifically picked and chose different symbolism that were being used by that. And because Christianity and the Catholic Church and the Orthodoxy at that time was basically trying to implement a way to like somehow unify these societies as part of this bigger Roman Empire, they basically took any sacred symbolism that seemed to, represent something as evil or dark inside of the Christian tradition, and just transpose the meanings in the Christian tradition right over that. I mean, before that, Lucifer and the idea of the devil in Christianity never even was a being with horns. He was a fallen angel, like somehow cast out or cast himself out by God, and is actually supposed to be, in many ways, a redeemer, somebody who actually redeems consciousness by falling into the darkness and being redeemed. Of course, that's the Gnostic tradition, and you're not going to find that in any church. And any of you who are, deeply Christian listening to this might turn it off right now based on me saying that. But I invite you to just stick with me and listen a little bit further, because this is really important for Earth Day and assessing where we're at socially and in our belief systems on the planet right now. So basically what's happened is this symbol, this 5-pointed star, and this symbol for fertility and life force and energy of our connection with the earth and sensual nature, was basically cursed with this idea that this is a symbol of the devil. It's a symbol of darkness. If you use it, you're evil and you're going to get hanged and you're going to get killed. Now, there's something very, very interesting about what happens when we believe that a symbol or something is evil. For one thing, we immediately are repulsed by it. We're turned away from it. We close up. We get fearful. If we see somebody wearing it, you know, we might get scared, or we might think, oh God, oh, there's another one of those vampire people or whatever, right? And we have all this, there's all this innate emotional, sociological programming that goes into how we actually interact in our life when we think something is evil or harmful or going to hurt us, right? Now, if that thing's not actually really harmful at all or hurtful at all, well, then we're really, you know, putting ourselves in a pretty tough position continuously. Now, I'd like to show you something else that is a very important factor of this whole puzzle, which is that if we look into both the Vedic tradition of the chakras, and we also look into other transpositions of the body's energy field and the different chakric layers in that energy field, a very, very notable chakric pattern or geometry is the root chakra. Now, the root chakra, in its original lotus pattern design, has 4 lotus petals, and they each connect to the 4 directions and the 4 energies of the 4 elements, the physical elements, which, you know, we might call fire, air, earth, and water, but we also might call them by their physical processes. So in other words, thermal energy, fluid dynamics for water, pressure dynamics or hydrodynamics for the air, and the earth dynamics or geologic dynamics for solids. So solids, liquids, gases, plasmas, that's basically what we deal with in the physical realm. And those are basically the elements that have everything to do with our whole physical experience. Now, what's going on in the root chakra is the lotus petals, the 4 lotus petals, were designed as a symbol that would basically express, you know, the meaning of each of these elements that are part of this layer of our human experience. But the lotus petals don't actually necessarily represent exactly what the energy looks like and what the energy is actually doing in the root chakra. And what the energy is doing in the root chakra is it's actually coming up from the earth and it's spiraling up and going into your body. So it's flowing in a geometric spiraling form, you know, absorbed by your body, bringing energy into your body and literally giving your body health and resourcing your body with energy from the planet that you're on, namely Earth right now. Now, this vortex that we see the root chakra depicted as by many, many, many different people who've studied energy dynamics, one of whom I highly recommend exploring her work. Her name is Barbara Ann Brennan. She is a NASA astrophysicist who was studying the effects of space on the human energy field and ended up taking some yoga classes and going to some of these sort of alternative health classes, and realized that they had mapped out in these ancient traditions and just body traditions some of these same fields of the energy body as she had been discovering in her work at NASA. So she left NASA. She started an entire school of healing. She has some incredible books. One of them is my favorite, is called Light Emerging. And I highly, highly recommend it. In this, she explains and describes different ways that you can develop your higher sensory perception to be able to look at and watch and witness and see energy fields around people's bodies, and actually see into the body and see different energy field layers around the organs, zoom in and zoom out. And I practiced a lot of this work early on when I found her, and it's very, very useful, very applicable. And another great thing she does in her books is she points out all of the different names in every different tradition for the study of the human energy field. which is very, very valuable stuff for our work in the Guardian Alliance. And we'll cover a lot of that in more of the courses. But in particularly, what's interesting in regards to what we've been talking about is that, you know, you look at the chakras, and the chakras are literally these vortexes going up into the body. And you can feel that. You can feel it in the front of your body, in the areas where the chakras come in, and in the back of your body. And when those chakras get constricted and you have strange cramping in different areas of your body, and when they're open, that energy flow, that feeling of like you got chills, and it's just like everything's vibrating and your whole body is vibrating. We know these sensations very well. Now the root chakra coming up into the body like this vortex, you know, fundamentally you've got what are basically a connection into the 4 elements coming together and spiraling upward into the body. Well, when you do that, what you're doing is you're geometrically making a form that has the capacity to follow this spiral path. And what's really interesting about that form is it's this form right here. It's the pentagram. And that pentagram basically has innately inside of it the geometric formula that lets that spiral go into your body and come up and merge into your body and actually bring the energy from the earth up into your body. Now, okay, so what if you believe that that symbol is evil? What if you believe that the 5-pointed star, which is a fundamental structure of how energy concresses itself, crystallizes itself into life, into your DNA, into the shells, the breath, your body's energy field? What if you believe that is evil? What's that going to do to your physical body? Want to talk about plagues? Remember back at those days when they had all these huge plagues and major, major physical issues and problems? Well, those coincided with some of the biggest curses and beliefs in evil, and we called it the Dark Ages. I mean, it was dark times. People really were scared that nature and these natural things were evil in some way, or were going to, like, you know, affect them, or they were going to go to hell unless they like were constantly cleaning away their natural nature. Well, right now, today, it's time. Reclaim that symbol, honor it, acknowledge it, recognize it is part of our living force and geometry of our existence here as human beings in our bodies on this planet Earth. It is sacred, and no one can take that away from you. Straight up. Now, some people might be confused about that symbol and how it's used. They might be misusing it in different ways, but fundamentally the symbol itself, the energy itself behind it, and the meaning behind it is part of life. It is part of the gift of what it means to come into physical existence. And that is so beautiful. So please, please honor that symbol, acknowledge that symbol, recognize that symbol, draw it, like spend time with it, because that's where this all begins. That's where all your energy begins as it's coming up into your body from the earth. That's where all your deep communion with this planet Earth here on Earth Day begins and comes from. And so let's talk about these elements. Let's talk about these fields and these vibrations that are coming up through this portal in our bodies, because they're so useful, so beautiful. Let's start with fire, because fire is red, and there's the root, and it's red, and it's heat. Well, down in the heart of Gaia is this massive, amazing, incredible chamber of fire blooming itself into these massive spirals, churning metal at high speeds in huge torrential channels of fire that literally birth the electromagnetic field of the planet. When you look down and you're thinking, this is, okay, it's earth, it's solid, it's cold, it's hard, it's dirt, it's rock. Well, it's not for very long. If you go down, it's not very far before you start getting into heat. And you start getting into the magma. You start getting into the lava. You start going down and no, it's magma. Lava's on the surface. You start going down and you get into the mantle layers, And then as you go through the mantle layers of the planet, where there's these massive turbines that are generating the electromagnetic field, you go into deeper and denser layers of the planet in the outer core, which is even more like high level, like crystallization of metal and fire in one. And then all the way into the inner core, which the inner core, you know, is believed to be like a solid crystal of metal, like crystallized white hot metal that's just like boom, and is this heart of the planet that's literally got so much energy, it's driving all these processes through the rest of the planet, volcanic energy and just the movements of entire continental plates on the surface of the earth, and is just this incredible life force that's coming up from this planet. And that fire is part of who we are. That warmth inside of our core is part of who we are. We can honor that heat inside of us, that fire inside of us that's blooming and giving life and changes and helping to rebirth our cells and move our blood through our hearts pumping to excite our brain's electrochemical fields so that we can think more and process more and see more and be more aware of all that we are. And this fire is tempered by this breath, because around this earth is all this breath that's come from the heat of this fire rising up through the earth and meeting the water that's come to the earth. It's come to its surface from comets, from the fabric of space itself, from the gestated elements that have congregated together after some star went supernova, and some of its gases and material and matter eventually combined and spiraled into our sun and into these amazing planets that surround our sun. And the water that has gathered here came and it's merged with that fire, that hot molten fire of the early planet Earth. And that fire and that water came together and made this steam, made this breath, made this alchemy that forged this field of air around the planet, and also solidified this fire into earth, into matter, into rock. And so as we breathe, we feel the boundary of our being, this earth that we are, this surface. But we take in the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is around us. We're sharing breath with each other and everything all the time. We are breathing the trees. And when you're in the city, you're breathing the smog. You're breathing the buildings. You're breathing the ground. You're breathing, yeah, the people that pissed on the side of the street over there. Yeah, you're breathing that, okay? You're breathing what is around you. It's becoming a part of your body. And when you breathe out, you're giving a part of your body and a part of your life force to the rest of the world. The CO2 that you breathe out feeds the trees and feeds the grass. And so we're in this relationship of sharing with the planet. We're taking it in and we're letting it out. We get hungry. We got to feed these bodies. We got to make this solid. So we eat. We put things in our mouth. We take greens from the ground. Sometimes we take the lives of animals. May we treat them sacredly and honor their life. And we put that in our mouths and we chew that up. And that's come from, whether it's an animal or a plant, it's come from eating plants. It's come from eating the ground. It's come from the earth and the sun and the water and the air that everything that is living uses and breathes and lives in life. And it's taking that in and it's turning it into a substance that tastes amazing when you put it in your mouth. It tastes amazing. We have taste. That alone is so incredible. And it tastes amazing, which gives us an energetic experience of vibration. And we swallow it down and it becomes our body. I literally have, eggs in my hand. I've got salad, in my shoulders. I've got pieces of the world and the energy of this planet all inside of me. I'm made of it. I'm made of the planet. And if I remember that in each breath, and I remember that when I feel myself, and I remember that when I feel the heat of the fire inside of me, and I remember that when I drink water, and I remember that I cannot be separated from this earth. I can't. You know, even when I create spaceships and I travel to other star systems and I go to other places, do I really want to be in a spaceship and, you know, even if it's an amazing spaceship? I mean, we're talking like dolphin skin morphology, like transformational, like field technologies with holographic interfaces on the inside to look like whatever, like super high class, you know, Pleiadian class starship. Why am I in the ship? Because I want to go visit a planet. And our planet is a very, very special place to visit. And we've got to take care of it. We've got to honor it. We've got to show up for it as guardians, as our children. We got to love it. We got to take care of it. We got to honor it. We got to fix it. We got to fix ourselves. And to do that, it's good to have a strong body. It's good to have strong energy. It's good to be working with and pumping our communion with this planet. It's good to have your root chakra open and to really be grounded and feel what is needed and do what needs to be done. All right, you're with me. Great. Thank you guys so much, and I hope that you've enjoyed our little download session on connecting with the earth energies and elementals. I'd like to open the space up now for people who are students of the Warrior and the Weaver courses. If you have questions about those courses, I would love to address them here. I'll also open some tabs where I can see your questions inside of the dojo and inside of the lounge. But for those of you who are here on the page right now, if you have any questions about the warrior practices, any of the Qigong or Tai Chi practices, or you have questions about some of the Weaver techniques and social techniques, and you want to talk about those a little bit, I would love to hear your questions and honor them, and spend the last bit of time on this special Earth Day session with you, the beautiful students of Ring 1. And honor your presence, and thank you guys so much for being here. And for those of you who haven't checked out the Ring 1 courses yet, please come check them out. They are so awesome. Alex's course and David's course are open so far, the Warrior and the Weaver courses, and they're just absolutely amazing. There's just so many incredible Qigong techniques. And I mean, those of you who are here and watching this call, maybe you can share if you have feedback about the courses that we've released so far, and let people know so they can come check it out. We decided that for Earth Day, you know, we've had a lot of people that have been like, yeah, I really want to do it, but I can't yet, you know, I can't yet. I'm still working it out. So we decided that even though we'd closed registration for Ring 1 already, we decided to open things up again one more time today for a special sale. And we're offering all of the courses in Ring 1 again at the original early pre-registration cost discount. So it's like over 50% off all of it. And yeah, so if you guys want to grab access keys, we'd love to have you. All right, I'm going to jump on some questions here. And yeah, so let's see. Patty's most recent question here is, what does that symbol look like in 3D as a 3D geometry? So Patty, are you talking about the 5-pointed star symbol? Are you talking about the 5-pointed star, if that's what you're getting at, in 3D actually becomes the dodecahedron. And the dodecahedron is actually made of 12 5-pointed stars that are interconnected all the way around, and they form a platonic solid. And I think I have a nice picture of a dodecahedron for you here. And the dodecahedron is really, really valuable geometry to be aware of when it comes to understanding the physics of space-time, because it's got some very, very special properties. Namely, one of the most important properties that I might illustrate to you is that, you know how I was talking about those 5-pointed stars, the nature of the 5-pointed star is that, it spirals in like a vortex. And so if you take that 5-pointed star and you put it up on a surface, there's spiral energy that's coming off of it and down towards a point. I mean, generally, things that have the Phi ratio generally are built in a spiral lattice naturally. So that 5-pointed star is literally going fractally all the way down to, the center of a cell of a shell, or a structure in your DNA. And sometimes that spiral is longitudinal, like it is in DNA, where it's just the same ratio, but it's going longitudinally instead of fractally converging at a point. Well, in the dodecahedron, if you have a 5-pointed star here and 5 right here, and pentagons on each of these surfaces, what's really interesting is that if you take the Phi ratio and you map a Phi spiral coming in from each of those surfaces, all the Phi spirals from all the surfaces meet at an infinite point in the center. In other words, they never touch and they're always touching. It goes into infinity in the very center, which is why it's my belief, based on my papers and research, that the dodecahedron actually represents the geometry of the Planck lattice in the center of a proton. So in the very center of protons, where all of the Planck structures basically are crystallized into like the core that goes into basically the singularity in the center of the proton, the singularity is actually this Planck lattice that's as densely packed as it can be in this dodecahedral format, and all the energy from all of these 5-pointed stars on the dodecahedron go into these ley lines of curvature through the entire proton structure, because the entire proton structure is basically a geodesic, which, if you've ever seen a Buckminster Fuller dome, a Bucky dome, or you've been at Burning Man or any festival that has a dome, you'll notice it's all six-pointed triangle structures, except for in 5 exact points in the upper hemisphere that are 5-pointed triangles, or 5 triangles like 5-pointed stars, and one on the very top, it's a 5-pointed star. And if you had a whole sphere and you're looking down, you're going to have another 5-pointed stars forming around the Tropic of Capricorn, so to speak, on that area of the circle. And the 5, basically position themselves where, this one is across from these 2, and there's one up top and there's one on the bottom, which actually makes 12 5-pointed stars. So even in a geodesic, even in a Buckminster Fuller dome, that's a high frequency dome with all this 6-pointed structure too, there's still just 12 5-pointed points that modulate that curvature. And if you layer domes inside of domes inside of domes, and you stacked them all together all the way down until you had a tiny little ball, you're going to have those 5 points coming in all the way down until you reach the very center. And at the very center, you've got a dodecahedron. And that dodecahedron is this core node, and you can't pack anything inside that besides, other platonic solids can nest in that. But fundamentally, in the core of it, where those general energy ley lines go, it converges at infinity at the center of that dodecahedron, which is a pretty good, case for the probability of what Nassim Haramein talks about, that there's actually a singularity or a black hole at the center of every proton. So I invite you to check out his work if you don't know about it. Most of you already do, I believe. And Kouros says, if you shine a light through a dodecahedron, the shadow makes a flower of life. I know because I saw it. They made a giant wooden one and had a light on it, and it made a flower of life in the trees. Wow, that's super interesting. I almost can see how you could do that. but it seems like it would still be a 5-pointed pattern from most of the angles. But yeah, I imagine it's possible. It's totally possible. I mean, definitely, there's definitely other platonic solids that form flower of life patterns when they're intersected and light passes through it. I'd love to see a photo of that through a dodecahedron at some point. That sounds really, really awesome. And so, any other questions coming up for people, either from the warrior course, the weaver course, just from what we talked about today? I'll go ahead and open up the dojo and see who's been sharing in the dojo and see if there's been any good warrior questions showing up in there. Okay, what do we got in the dojo? Patty, I love your sharings all over the site. They're so awesome. You got technical artificial intelligence class for hologram interfaces, Tai Chi, augmented reality experience. That sounds so awesome. Yeah, thank you for the appreciation of the Tai Chi work that I shared in the warrior course. And Mr. Wizards was sharing about Sanbaio, which are the 3 treasures in Chinese medicine. The treasure of Jing, which is the root of life, the essence. It's also known generally in a lot of Taoist wisdom as like the sexual energy is your Jing or your Qing. It's also connected to the Chinese word Qing, that's used in I Ching, for example. It's a changing vital field force. And then there's the treasure Qi, which is also Qi in Chinese, which represents more of your actual energy field flows that you have. It's the vital force of your energy that often gets expressed out of your body and into your body. It's kind of the physical layer of your energy field. And then there's the treasure Shen. And the treasure Shen is the spirit layer of the Qi. So it's the field when you really slow down and you're doing Qigong and you're going really slow, you can feel this like very, very, very subtle spirit field of your consciousness that's moving with the energy. And that's working with the Shen. And it can be sped up as well. And learning how to use the Shen is like learning how to use your deeper spiritual technology to actually move your energy body and revitalize your sexual energy and your Qi and that kind of thing. Let's see. Lots of good feedback on the warrior course going on there. Don't see many questions. And let's check out the lounge, see if anybody's got anything they share it on there. Lots of beautiful weavers sharing in the lounge, putting pictures of themselves in there, sharing some deep stuff. A lot of people have been going through some major transformation with that one. It's such a transformable one. Like when you're working with the sacral chakra and you're dealing with those like deep emotional and social transformations in our bodies and the challenges that come up from the time we were born. There's just so many incredible, just like challenges that emerge, in our beings emotionally. It's like part of our human dance. And when we're able to like move through those, break through those, and open up deeper levels of sensitivity to what we're feeling and what we're doing and how we're doing it, oh my God, it just changes our whole lives. It's like the same thing as like turning on your root chakra. It's like suddenly your body comes alive so much more, and there's so much more health and energy and vitality. And then, the next gate up is your sacral chakra. So now you got to deal with all that energy, and it's in the emotional field, and you have to begin to learn how to balance and open that emotional field and circulate that energy. And then it also moves up to the solar plexus, and it's in your mind and in your willpower. And what are you going to do next? And how are you going to do it? And is your mind clear enough to move and process those energies and direct them through your life? That's a lot of what we're going to explore in the Wizard course that opens on Friday. So that'll be super fun. You guys should come back and check that out. Yeah. And then, you know, it opens into your heart, and then you got to work on the interpersonal thing. It's a journey, you know, and you gotta be willing to take the journey and go on the journey and explore these different layers of yourself, so that you can come to know and understand yourself and work with and live the energy that's moving through you more fully, and give your deepest gifts in the world. You are all super sexy. Thank you so much for these beautiful, uplifting, and sexy teachings. Thank you so much, Alati Miranda. And yeah, I'm not seeing many questions here. I'll go back to the live session page and see if anybody has any questions there. Looks like David's already answered or responded to things, and so has Alex. It's good. And let's see. All right, Laurel has a question. Warrior activating. During my Thoth practice, my hands become very hot. Is this normal? Absolutely. Yes. It's a great sign. It means that you have very open arm meridians. So what's happening is the chi is able to pass through your yin channels in your hands and into your hands, which will bring blood and energy and heat into your hands. Oftentimes in Tai Chi and Qigong practice, you know, we tell students that, you know, the mind intent guides the chi, and the chi then moves the blood. And so what happens is, as you're doing the practice and your mind intent is moving the chi, and this chi is going into your hands, the blood is also going into your hands. So you might feel actually your heartbeat in your palms, and all the heat that's coming with that blood, you know, is moving directly from the chi in your heart and in your belly and in your dantian. And so it's very, very common to have your hands get very hot. It's also very useful for healing application, because that chi is literally now radiating out of your hands in the form of thermal energy or infrared light. And at that point, you can, you know, apply your hands to places that you're sore, where you have muscular issues, and you can actually let that energy come in and nourish the muscles, nourish the bones, the sinews, and the tissues, and actually, you know, heal your own body and heal other people's bodies. So that's great news. I'm really glad to hear that that's working for you. And yeah, I'm stoked for you. Spacetime asks, what is the gene key for Weaver? That's a great question. The gene key for Weaver is actually, well, the key for Weaver is lake over lake. So it's basically like, if we're looking at the elements, and I'll kind of onboard you to this translation here, which is really useful, between the Druid 5 elements and the Taoist element structure and the element structure of the Bagua. If you look at the original 5 elements, you know, in Druid terminology or Wicca or other earth religions, you've got the fire, the air, the earth, and the water. Well, some of those translate really, really easily over to the Taoist elements. So fire is obviously fire. Water is obviously water. Earth, though, in the elemental circle, the circle of transforming elements, the earth in the Druid tradition would be considered mountain in the Bagua. And then you have wind or air, which also is wind or air in the Bagua. But if you're dealing with the Chinese 5 elements, the wind element or the air element is actually metal. And this has to do with the fact that metal rules the lungs. It's the energy field of the lungs, and also that metal and wind sort of have the same effect. Fire and water forge metal. Fire and water give birth to wind. The alchemy of wind is direction and energy and focus and piercing and penetrating. Metal is also focusing, crystallizing, piercing, penetrating. So they have the same process and sort of meaning. And then what's left of the permutable elements in that field is spirit, which becomes thunder, and thunder is like the inspiration. That's its meaning. in the Chinese philosophy is the inspiration. So the thunder, the lightning, the strike, the like energy coming in and landing and grounding. And the other is lake, and lake and wood have the same energy or vibration. And lake and wood represent life, the birthing of life, the growth of life, the life energy that's under the water, the life energy that grows in the wood. It's an expression of this living life force itself. And then the infinite yin and yang are, you know, heaven and earth, the white and the black, the full yin, the full yang, and they represent more of time and the energy of flowing through time. You know, receiving the past is the infinite yin, and creating the future is the infinite yang. So there's a little download on that. And we're going to get into that a lot more in depth in some of the courses, probably in Ring 2. But for now, I'll focus back on your question, which is that lake over lake is the symbol for the weaver, and this is wood over wood. This is life force over life force, and life force over life force is gene key 58. And gene key 58 is known as from stress to bliss. And it's all about this transformation of the shadow of dissatisfaction, of not feeling like you have enough, of this like illusion that somehow you're getting shorted by life or reality, or like that there's not enough energy. And it's transforming that into a state of the gift of vitality, realizing that like, if you don't feel like you have what you want, you got to start doing something to pay attention to the world. You've got to vitalize yourself. You got to get out there. You got to see things. You got to take things in. You got to experience things. You got to get involved. Vitality is this charge that transforms our dissatisfaction. And it turns eventually into a state where literally the flow of our energy itself, the flow of our energy moves from this constricted, stressful place to a place of bliss, to where we're literally feeling and embodying bliss and expressing that bliss in everything that we do and in all parts of our lives. And it's a beautiful key. I highly recommend reading it and exploring it further. And yeah, I hope that answers your question. And so, okay. Well, it looks like I don't have any other questions. But if there are any more, feel free to just let me know, post them on the board. I might respond to them later today. And I got to get back on just finishing up the wizard course so that I can open up on Friday. And I'm real excited to see you guys again there. I hope you have a really beautiful Earth Day. Go spend some time, sit on the ground, work with your elements, feel the elements inside of you. Practice moving those elements through your body. Practice speaking to the wind and letting those elements express themselves outside of your body in the flows of the wind. Feel the fire inside of you and the warmth inside of the planet, and bring more energy of that warmth up inside of you. Play with communicating with the birds and the animals and nature, receiving the gift of water if it's nearby, or offer some water to the ground if you're in a place that needs more water. Just participate and get with the earth and make some love to it today. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being here again, for joining me today. Honored and as always to see you. And I look forward to seeing you on Friday for the wizard course opening up at 2 o'clock. Thanks so much. Aloha. Blessings.